Okay, this is Stephen Smith speaking. The date is 226. This is a redo of the 222 lecture, Friday 222, because I had neglected to press the record button, so this will be the first part of the lecture. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly and cover everything that I covered there and then get it posted today. First thing I did was I talked about this guy right here, Go. I talked about him, and I said that anytime that you have create, so I create anything, create a table, that's all we know right now is creating a table. We're going to see other creates toward the end of the class. Next class will be full of creating stuff. In general, we drop it, we drop the table first. So if the object ID is not null, this is not SQL, but all SQL implementations provide you with an if then else type of a thing. It's not going to be a big part of this class, more so in the next one, but this if then else is part of the wrapper language that wraps around it and gives us more functionality. Right now, just this part of it, if object ID, just copy this and put your table names into the right places, and that'll take care of it. If it's there, drop it. It stops it from throwing an error. Now, next one, if you do a create, have a go before it and after it. Sometimes it will let you get away without it, but not often. So, we will use go. So when you create the child, there's a go before it, a go after it. Go essentially says finish everything, make it all happen, and then do it again. Let's see. So go's not needed between or after inserts. Go is not needed before or after a select statement. Okay, just let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and create these guys. I use ScratchDB. And I'm going to insert some values into this. So I execute this. And let's see, what have I got into child? Into my parent table, I put in the values. The parent is 1, 2, and 3. And the parent 1 has child 9. Parent 1 has child 8. Parent 2 has child 7. These guys are pretty straightforward. They're just plain old foreign keys. Now, notice some things that I did not do here. By the way, this is a sloppy shorthand for doing a foreign key. This is sloppy shorthand for a primary key. You will see people do it this way. How should I have done it? I should have said constraint, given it a name, and then primary key CID. I should have done this as a constraint. I didn't do it. It's not even there. I've got it commented out. There is no foreign key set up properly on the child table. Therefore, in the child table, I can put a bogus parent. So this child has a bogus parent. And then finally, the child with child ID 6 is an orphan, has no parent. Null parent. Null parent doesn't bother us. This one right here, the -1, there is no -1 parent. That is bad kimchi right there for a database table to have a bogus parent. But I've put it in there anyway because I wanted to show some stuff. Notice something else, that parent ID 3 is a childless parent. Okay, so I'll come back to that in just a minute. Now, if we look at it this way, and I do an inner join of parent and child on the primary key to the foreign key, which really isn't a foreign key, but it's functioning as one. And if I do this, execute this guy, notice that I get all of the primary keys, the foreign keys. The child ID is 987, and the foreign keys that go with them, the primary key 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, and 7. So parent 1 has 2 children, 8, 9. Parent 2 has 1 child, child number 7. The only thing we see there are the children and parents that participate in the relationship. This is a property of the inner join. The inner join, only those records that participate in the relationship are shown. Okay. Notice that we do not see the childless parent, 3. We do not see the orphan, and more importantly, probably, we do not see the bad record, the inconsistent record, which is this one, child 13 with a -1. Okay. Now, I'm going to introduce another type of a join. This is the inner join. Okay, here we have it with no further ado. Let's look at the outer join. Now the outer join, notice that it has a left and right. Go back to the inner join just for a minute. Notice that there is one of the tables is on the left and one of the tables is on the right of the join statement. In an inner join, it makes no difference. Put them in either order. So I could say child inner join parent, or parent inner join child is the same. In an outer join, by the way, you have this file. In an outer join, it does make a difference. Because when you have a left, I'm talking about left outer join, points to, and I'm going to use that terminology. Some books use it, some don't. I don't think ours says it points, but I'm going to say that the join points, the direction of the join points left. That's what I'm going to say, whether the book says it or not. Meaning it's pointing at the parent. Now, when it points left, that means all records from the left side will be shown. And the records from the right side that participate will be shown. So if I do a left outer join, I will see all parents. Well, what parents did I not see up here in the inner join? I did not see the childless parent, parent number 3. I will see them when I do the left outer join because I will see all parents. I will not see the orphan child, 6. I will not see the invalid child, 13. Where I'm going to take this one out. I'm going to suppress this line for just a minute where CID is null. And basically, I'm just going to show here. Notice that I see roughly the same thing that I did. I put them in, I just order by PID, CID. I just did that for consistency so that I see them in the same order. I don't know what order you'd see them in, but notice that I'm seeing them, I'm seeing the same 3 records of 7, 8, and 9, child 7, 8, and 9. And I also see the record number 4, which is 3, the parent key, the childless parent. So I see the childless parent in this guy. And this is, you have to do an outer join to get childless parents. You have to do an outer join to get childless parents. Okay, so if I just wanted to see only childless parents, so this particular query, as it is written right now with line 52 commented out, will show me all of the child records, excuse me, will show me all of the parent records and those child records that participate. If I wanted to see just childless parents, I'm going to have to come in and say where the CID is null, because what's the property of this? The CID is null. I think I would probably write that where P dot PID is null. Dot would help. Because I like using the, remember the foreign key here No, that's right. Or CID. That was right. Where CID is null because the foreign key is the CID. C.PID. Where C, let me get this right, P.PID. So where the foreign key is null. So this is the foreign key. The foreign key is C.PID. Now I cannot use this term right here, foreign key, because remember that that hasn't happened when I'm on the for line. I can order by it, but I can't use it in the where line. So if I execute this, and I will leave it this way, notice I just see that. So probably what I should do is break this out. I'll break this into two. And I'll take that out of this one. So this one shows childless parents and all children. All children that participate. Does not show orphans, does not show invalids. When we add what is now line 60, I get only childless parents. So basically this is, if I want to see childless parents, so it says find all of the parent keys that have no children, find all of the vendors that have no invoices. Is a good idea. Find all of the sales reps that have no sales. I want to fire them. Soon to be ex-sales reps. I would say I would point it at the parent, points to the parent, find childless parents, points at the parent where the child is null, where the other side is null. So the child foreign key is null. So it points here where this one is null. Let's see, what was I was going to point something else out here that came across my mind. Anyway, I'm going to leave it this way and turn it. So childless parents are a very common use for a outer join. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Left outer join. Some people will say they only like using left outer join. And if they want to do child, they flip it around and put the child on the left side. And then it becomes, then the join points to the child. We're going to do that in just a minute. I personally use left and right, and I will usually put the parent on the left and the child on the right. That is just my convention. You don't have to follow it. I think it's good to have a plan, how you go through them. And my plan is I use left or right, either one, and I put the parent key, the parent table on the left and the child table on the right. But I'm not going to insist that you follow that convention. Let's see. Let's see what we have in the child table. I know what we have in the child table. I have 13, -1. This is not, row 1 is a bogus record. Row 2 is an orphan. 3, 4, and 5 are records participating in the relationship. Now, notice something about this. Even though this didn't show up in the inner join, I do not have to do an outer join to find orphans. I do not need the parent table to identify an orphan record. I can do that strictly from this table. I only need one table to find orphans. Orphans typically don't bother me a whole lot. I mean, I don't like nulls. They don't bother me any more than any other null, except they don't show up in a join. So I have to find childless parents, I have to have both tables. But to find orphans, I do not need the parent table. I can see everything I need to see to determine that child ID 6 is an orphan by looking at just this one table. He or she has a null in that record. Okay, first thing let's do, okay, I've got all records there. I'll get this right in a minute. Okay, I want to see all records, so I'm going to see all of the parents that participate and all of the children. Now notice that now I have a right outer join. The right is pointing at the child. That tells me that the child, all records from the child. Okay, how many records are in the child table? Well, we had 5 of them. I'm going to see all of the invalid records. I'm going to see all of the orphans, and I'm going to see all of the invalid, all the orphans, and all of the parents. So if I execute this, notice that I have my invalid record, I have my orphan, and I have the parents in there. Now, I don't know why. Let me say right here. But wait. We don't. Okay, I'm going to find only orphans, and in this case, I'm going to use the right outer join. And the right outer join says I point at the parent, right outer join, and I want it to where the primary key, the foreign key, is null. Well, there he is. So I'm only going to get this record number 2 or CID 6. And if I run this, execute, notice that I get that, but I don't need it. I can run it just like this. Select. Now let's just select everything from child where C dot PID. I never renamed that table, so I have to rename it if I'm gonna, I have to say as C if I'm gonna use C there. Executed, I see the 6 returned. It is much, if you don't need a table, don't put it in the join. This would be an error. There would be a problem here because you have an extra table in the join. And while SQL is pretty smart, it's not smart enough to filter out extra tables that you don't need. It doesn't look that deeply into it to tell, gee, you don't need that table. You say you need it, so it's going to put it in the join. And it's going to do what you say. So I'm adding a table and I'm adding cost to the query when I could have done it with one table. Okay, I want to find invalid parents. So I don't need an outer join for orphans. But invalid parents, I'm going to have both tables. So these are the 2 big ones. You have invalid parents and childless parents. If I do this guy, let's only invalid parents. So again, I have the join pointed at the child table, pointing at the child table. The parent is there where p.pid is null. Let's try it. Just this piece of it right there. We have to have this and in there to get only invalid parents. Now, if I execute this, notice that I get the invalid parent, but I also get that orphan. How can I tell a record that does not participate where the p.pid is null in this? How can I tell an invalid parent from no parent at all where the child PID is not null? So this is going to give me only the record that is now in position 1. And so that gives me only the invalid parents. Now this is a very important query. All right, take a look at it very carefully here. Finding invalid parents, finding the invalid records, finding the records that are giving you serious trouble. I can find those nulls pretty quickly from just a single table query. I just look at the table and I can just look at the table, sort it. Nulls all come either to the top or the bottom. By the way, sorting nulls is kind of strange. Nulls will sort first, I believe. So if we order it by something with a null, we're going to get that one at the beginning, but that doesn't mean that a null is less than. Let's see. Okay, so it points at the child table. Now, if the child table were over here on the left, it would be a left outer join. But since I put parent on the left and child on the right, that's my thing, then it's right out. Some people never use right outer join. They just put the table that they want them all from on the left and make everything a left outer join. And I guess you could do that. I don't. We have the join field the same way that we did on the inner join. And then the where clause, the where, we have to look at there carefully, because where the parent PID is null, right? Doesn't we don't have a parent, and the child PID is not null, and this is what gives us the invalid record. If we have any of those, we have invalid records. Oh, let's see. What else did I want to say here? Syntax issues. Syntax issues. Note that we can drop the as. I said you can't in SQL. You can. We don't do it in this class. If you drop the as, notice that there is no comma in there. Therefore, if you do it this way, it's an as is assumed. Similarly, we can drop the as here and here. Don't do this. When you get to the advanced class, if you do it, that's your business. Because people do it. People write SQL this way. They do tend to drop the as. So I'm going to go ahead and mention it, that yes, it works. You can also drop the outer join, just like you could drop inner from inner join. It is possible to drop to just say right join, because if you say right join, it could only be a right outer join. Similarly, left join could only be a left outer join. And if you just said join, well, it's got to be an inner join. Don't do that in this class. Let's see. Order by. You could use the, let's see, PID. Notice that we have renamed PID. It is possible to use the alias. You can use the alias on the order by. on order by. You may use that in the order by clause. And that's fine. If you do this, I wouldn't have any issue at all with that. If you rename it up here on the select line, you cannot use that alias in either the from or the where line because it hasn't happened yet. Notice though that if you rename it in the from line, then you use that alias everywhere, because what happens? What is the order of it? The order of the execution of an SQL statement is it executes the from line first, then it executes the where line. Well, you don't rename things on the where line. Then it executes the select line, and then finally the order by. So if I rename something on the select line, I can use that alias on the order by line, or not, as I choose. If I rename it in the from line, then I use the alias throughout. If you use it in the order by clause, that's fine. So if I were to execute this, I would get the same output. It's just, well, the same as the one up above it. I've shortened it. People will do that. They will drop this as, they will drop the outer. I'll get mad at you if you drop the outer join. Don't do that. That's all I see right in there. So those are the syntax issues. Now, those aren't necessarily bad. I just have to have some way that I'm teaching it. So I've decided, okay, in 1309, I'm going to teach the full syntax. We're going to use the full syntax of SQL. SQL has lots of places in it where you can shorten the syntax, and I will point these out to you because you'll see books and video tutorials that will do it. And that's fine. They do it. And when you get out of my 1309 class, you may do it, and nothing wrong with it. But in here, I'm going to insist on the full syntax. And the semicolon at the end. Lots of people will drop that. Other thing I do like is not to have completely blank lines inside of an SQL statement, not because there's any particular reason for it in SQL Server, but many platforms, if you come along and when it hits a blank line like this, it will get the hiccups. It will terminate. If you want to have a blank line, put a comment on that line. I typically don't have them. Now, blank lines between them are fine. This means nothing. But inside of an SQL statement, I don't have blank lines, and I go ahead and push the syntax all the way out. So right outer join as opposed to right join. Left outer join as opposed to left join. And then finally inner join as opposed to just plain join. And as I said, you're going to see tutorials and people who know what they're doing in SQL will write it that way. I might write it that way, but I'm not in 13. I won't write it in 1309 that way. Other things that I have done here. Let's see, what did I do? Oh, I just said primary key, and I'm getting sloppy there. So if you're on a test and you write a primary key, yeah, let's see. It should look like this. Do not use the name of the field as the name of the constraint. Put in the constraint, use the table name. The reason for this if you have the table name in the constraint, always have the table name and something that identifies it. If the table name is in the constraint names have to be unique in the database. But the field names don't. They're just unique in the table. Therefore, you might have try to have another constraint named PID, and that would give you problems. Okay, I've said about everything I need to say, and I believe we've gotten it. So I went through it a lot faster when I don't have a live audience. Okay, two big times we use an outer join. We use an outer join for finding childless parents. Outer join finds childless parents. So all childless parents, do you want to find childless parents and all the children, or only childless parents? Points at the parent table. In my case, that's left. If yours are different, fine, and it could be right. So it points to the parent, where the child primary key is the child foreign key, the foreign key is null. Points at the parent where the foreign key is null. Okay. Find invalid parents. Find only invalid parents. It points at the child. It points at the table I want all records from. Where the parent primary key is null and the child foreign key is not null. Okay, got to have both of these to find only invalid parents. If I don't have that second one, I'm also going to find orphans. For orphans, lots of people will use outer join to find orphans, and I say here we don't need the parent table to find orphans. I can find orphans by simply looking at the foreign key of the child table. Okay. And then in the next section of this, right now we stopped and took a break, and then I realized, oh, phooey petunias, I forgot to turn my recorder on. I talked about the test that is coming up. So we're going to, I'll turn the test on. I have turned on, by the way, the practice test. I've turned on the practice test, and I have made the practice test solution key available to you. Basically, I just look at that practice test, and if you do it, you turn it in, you'll get credit for it, okay? So do it and turn it in. Now, if all you do is just copy the answers off of the solution key, it's not going to help you very much. So people who really do that practice test make a very good grade on the test. And I'm going to go ahead and end the recording there and get it posted. So thank you for your indulgence. I'm sorry it took so long to get this thing up. And here we go. Goodbye to all, and to all a good night.